Well, g'day, and welcome back again to Ching. Yes, we're back home from our trip over to Guangzhou. It was a very good weekend, had a really good time catching up with a heap of the guys, meeting some fellow musicians, and yeah, we're gonna have to get back and play some more music with these guys. They all play the sort of music that I love, all the sort of late 60s, early 70s sort of thing. Really good stuff. But today, we're actually answering a question that came up from one of those videos. So this is from Steve Warren. Can you share about your search for a hotel in Guangzhou, the cost, bed comfort, accept foreigners, etc.? Yes, we will talk about that. So generally, if I'm traveling on my own, I don't book a hotel. I just arrive wherever I'm going to and then find a hotel nearby and just walk in and ask for a room. Yeah, most of the booking stuff you can do is in Chinese, and not being able to type Chinese doesn't really help me very much. So yeah, what I did, I got to Guangzhou, walked down to the playing grounds where we were going to be playing the next day, got to there, then pulled out Baidu Maps, used a translator, translate hotel into Chinese, and then copy and paste the Chinese translation into Baidu Maps, and then on the map it shows you where all the hotels are around you. So I just picked the closest hotel, which also happened to be the cheapest. It was 98 RMB for a night, which is pretty good here. So I got a DD there. I didn't walk, I was sick of walking. I got a DD to that hotel. Got into that hotel. It was a fairly small place. Had to walk up 2 flights of steps to get to where my room was. No elevator or anything like that. So I walked into the place, older lady behind the desk, took my details, got my copied my passport, because you have to do that for the security bureau. Paid my money. We're walking up the steps to the hotel room. We've just gone past the first floor, we're on our way to the second floor, and she gets a message from somebody who, I don't know who it was, the owner of the hotel or somebody, and basically said, no, we can't accept him, is what I sort of got from the context. I had my translator running, so she told me the room apparently was not up to scratch, which I'm sort of going, well, I don't care. I just want a bed for the night. I don't care whether the room's good or bad. It's a cheap hotel. I don't expect 5 stars or anything like that. But we basically walked back downstairs and she tried to say goodbye to me. Now, I said through my translator, well, I'm going to want my money back. And she tried to tell me that the money hadn't gone through, which was a lie, out and out lie. No question, the money had gone through. I pulled out my WeChat. When you pay with something on WeChat, it sends you a message confirming that the payment has been made. So yes, it had been made, the money had gone through. So she, in a huff, went back upstairs, didn't tell me anything. I just ended up standing there going, well, what the hell's going on? She came back down, handed me 100 RMB cash back, which is a bit of a pain because I don't use cash. I haven't used cash for years here. So what the hell am I going to do with cash? And basically I walked out of there and went looking for the next nearest hotel. So we'll come back to that in a minute. We'll carry on with what actually happened. So I walked around the corner. It was about 800 meters to the next hotel, much bigger place. It was a 9 or 10 story building. Went in there, booked a room, no problem. That was 165 RMB for a night, which is still in my mind, a good price. That's what are we looking, just over $30 Australian for a night in a hotel, which to me, that's pretty damn good. And yeah, they were no issues. Book out time, the checkout time for the next day was, what did she tell me? 2 o'clock checkout time, which I think is pretty standard in China. Sort of when you book a room, you have it till after lunch, so you can have lunch the next day, have your afternoon nap after lunch, and then you're out of there. Might have been 3 o'clock actually, I can't remember exactly. But yeah, I told her no problem, I'll be out of there by 8 o'clock anyway, because I'm off to this sporting competition. So, right, the room itself that I was in, so that was 165. That, most of, like, I haven't done a lot of stuff where I'm staying in hotels over the years. I don't travel that, I haven't been traveling that much. I probably traveled more before COVID. But then when COVID happened and we couldn't travel, I sort of just got into the habit of not really traveling. So I haven't really used a lot of hotels recently, but when I have on occasion used hotels, generally, if you're not in the big sort of tourist areas, like we did a couple of trips down to the islands down on the south coast to the west of Hong Kong and Macau, they were a little bit more expensive. But generally, traveling around, you're paying between sort of 150 and 200 RMB. So between 30 and 40 Australian dollars a night. And that's for very bog standard. You know, I don't go looking for flashy hotels or anything like that. I'm not interested in traveling first class and all that sort of stuff. Basically, if I'm staying in a hotel, I'm spending most of my time out exploring the place. I just want a bed. So comfort of the beds, he asked about. Very, very comfortable. I know a lot of people, well, actually it's not even a lot of people. I know beds, a lot of people in China like a really, really, really hard bed. To the point where I could not sleep on them. I need a little bit of softness when I'm sleeping. But I've never come across a hotel with an uncomfortable bed. They have always been comfortable. Every single hotel I've ever been to have really good beds. What else did he ask there? What am I thinking about? Bed comfort, right. So yeah, cost between 150 200 RMB is probably pretty standard for your decent sized hotels, as long as you're not, looking for first class. If you want to pay more, you can get much more sumptuous rooms. Rooms generally have a comfortable bed. They've generally got Wi-Fi, they've generally got air conditioning, you've normally got a television in there, good bathroom facilities. I don't think I've ever been in a hotel that doesn't have a Western toilet. Maybe some cheap places you might have to resort to your squat toilets, but I've not come across that yet. Now, accepting foreigners. So, the first hotel I went to, I think they just didn't want to accept a foreigner, really. Had nothing to do with the room not being up to scratch. They just didn't want the hassle of having to report. So when you go to a city or town or village or whatever in Guangzhou, if you're staying more than 24 hours, you're meant to report to the Public Securities Bureau. You go to the police station basically and they'll sort it out. and basically show your passport, make sure that you're a legal visitor to China. And it also helps them, they want to know where you're staying. It helps them if there's some sort of problem. So for example, if you're in the, Sichuan province, I think, has occasional earthquakes. I can't remember exactly where, but if you're somewhere where there's some sort of a problem, floods or a major fire or an earthquake, they know who they are, who's in the area, who they have to look for, make sure that, the Chinese government don't want issues where foreign nationals are dying on Chinese soil. Not that they can help it, people die every day. But given the political climate around everything China and all the negative press they get, they do want to do their best that if something does happen, that there's nothing that they can be called into question about. So, yeah, I think this hotel just didn't want to go through all of that drama, which isn't much drama. It's a little bit of fill in a form and mail it off or whatever. It's not hard to do, but I've one other time had that issue, and I think, I'm just trying to remember when that was. I think that was when I went over to Guangzhou. So it was in Guangzhou when I went over for the AFL competition, I think, if I remember rightly. Or it might have been, no, I'm pretty sure it was the AFL competition. So that's twice, in 8 years, that's twice happened to me when the first hotel I find is a little cheap place. The other place claimed there was no rooms available. Might have been true, I'm not sure. They were a small hotel. It is quite possible that was the case. It was also during a holiday time, so I'm not going to hold that against them too much. What was the other point I was going to mention there? Yeah, when you get into bigger hotels, generally they're all set up for that. Being a foreigner, coming into those places is not going to be an issue. Like I say, I've never had any other issue in any of the times I've travelled anywhere within China. Generally, if you're going to have those problems, it is going to be smaller places and probably in you're sort of out of the way, smaller fourth or fifth tier cities or little villages, stuff like that, where people just don't have that experience. It's much the same as with my electric bike. Trying to get my electric bike licensed. Foreigners can license an electric bike under their name using their passport and stuff. The problem is, like where I bought my electric bike, the local post office to that, they had just never dealt with a foreigner, so they didn't know how to do it. So a lot of these hotels just don't have the experience and probably don't know what they're doing. There is a rule that the Chinese government instituted a couple of years back where a hotel cannot refuse a room to a foreigner because they're a foreigner. Hence why, I'm suspicious of the first hotel saying that we just didn't have any rooms left, and the second hotel saying, our room's not up to standard. They didn't want to say, no, you're a foreigner, we don't want to accept you. So they had to come up with another excuse. That's my suspicion. I could be wrong about that. But I sort of thought about, with this hotel on the weekend just gone, I thought about staying there and arguing my case. Saying what the hell, and pull it, because I've got the document on my phone from the Chinese government explaining that you are not allowed to refuse service because he's a foreigner. But I just can't be bothered. I'll go to a hotel that wants my business. If these small places, and I will probably post a thing about this place on WeChat and tell people, if you're going to Guangzhou, don't go and stay here. Although I probably won't bother, it's not worth my time. But yeah, they are not meant to refuse service on grounds of nationality in any way. So they come up with different excuses. Generally, most places I've ever stayed have been really good. The rooms are always really comfortable. I did actually think about doing showing the room I was staying in one of the videos I did while I was in Guangzhou, but I've done them before and I just didn't bother. Maybe I should have done it, might have helped answer Steve's question. But yeah, generally getting around, finding hotels and stuff is pretty simple. There's generally plenty of accommodation. You know, if you're going into the big cities, you're always going to find somewhere to stay. It's not an issue. There's plenty of accommodation. You know, there's a lot of traveling happens around China with Chinese people. They all need places to stay, so there's no problem with that. Yeah, and other than this little hotel that, you know, okay, you don't want my business, fine. Other than that, I've generally always had good experiences. Hotels have always been great. They're always very clean, very comfortable, very spacious actually. The rooms are generally very big. I'm trying to think. At the end of the question, there was etc. What else? I'm trying to think of what else I can tell you about the hotels. Just trying to rack my brains back. Thinking of other hotel experiences I've had, but they've all been much the same. A hotel's a hotel, a room's a room. They're all very, very similar. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think now of where I've stayed in hotels. So Huizhou, or Huiji, Shenzhen, Foshan, Guangzhou. Stayed in hotels in a few different places. Over in Guangzhou a couple of times. And yeah, hotels, generally they're really, really good. You know, you don't often get problems. Most of the time, if you're going to have any dramas trying to get into a hotel, it's going to be with smaller places. I've never, apart from that last, not the trip I've just been on, the time before I got refused a room where they said they had no space. I've never had problems with just walking into a hotel and finding a room. They've always had a room for me. So if you're traveling during like holiday periods in China, you might want to book a room. Get a, if you've got a Chinese friend, Chinese associate, Chinese business partner or something who can book rooms for you, that might be worthwhile looking into. But if you don't, like I say, I've never really had problems getting a room, so you should be able to do it. But yeah, no, it's generally been a very, very good experience here. Hotels, good quality, good prices, and always an enjoyable stay. So if you got any further questions about that, Steve, don't hesitate to comment down the bottom there. I can't think of what else to tell you, really. Oh, the other thing, there was one other thing I was going to mention. Pretty much every hotel room I've ever stayed in also has a lockable safe in one of the cupboards somewhere. So if you're traveling with a heap of cash or, you know, documents that you need securing while you're going out for dinner or something, you've generally got a safe in each room. I don't know that I've ever been to a hotel where there's not a safe. How safe they are from staff, I don't know. You sort of generally have to trust somebody. But I've never used them. I've never had anything that I needed to put in a safe, so I've never bothered. But yeah, if you are traveling, like doing business stuff, and you need that sort of facility, pretty much every room I've ever been in has got a safe. The other one I'll mention actually that I have stayed in a couple of times is homestays, where people will own rooms in hotels. So my friends over in Yunfu, Ange actually owns a couple of homestay units in one of the hotels there in Yunfu, and those rooms are generally a bit better equipped. So you've got all your standard stuff, your TV and your Wi-Fi and your aircon, but they will also have a washing machine, maybe a little refrigerator, maybe some cooking facilities, might be just a microwave, just a few more things, and they're generally a bit more spacious. Most hotel rooms I get are just a single sort of queen size bed, or maybe a double twin or something. The homestays I've stayed in have been, 2 or 3 bedrooms. One of the bedrooms is probably the main lounge area as well, but you've got separate sleeping quarters. So I did a trip to Foshan with one of my old students. We stayed in a homestay we were there with Alice. We were there for 3 nights, and I think that cost us 690 RMB from memory. I could be wrong about that. So a little bit more expensive than a hotel room, but in our case, because if we'd got standard hotel rooms, we would have had to book 2 rooms, a room each, so that we had privacy for all the stuff that you do when you're living a life. So yeah, while it was more expensive than a hotel room, it was cheaper than booking 2 hotel rooms. I've also stayed in homestays. When we went to Shenzhen last year with my friends from Yunfu, we had 3 families. We fit 3 families in 2 homestay rooms, and they were really, really comfortable. Again, that was actually quite expensive, which I ended up paying for. We were there for 3 nights. I ended up saying, look, because they'd paid for everything. I said, no, how much was one of the rooms? Because we moved every day. We spent a different night in different places as we were moving around Shenzhen, so we were close to where we wanted to be the next day. And I ended up saying, look, I'll pay for one of the rooms. You can't pay for everything for me, that's not right. So yeah, they were quite expensive, but that was because we were traveling during Chinese New Year, and Chinese New Year is always busy and the prices are always going to be more expensive. I think for the room I paid for the one night, I think that was up around 600 RMB for one night. But that was 3 bedrooms, big space, so we had me and 5 other people staying there. So plenty of space, it held a lot of people. So yeah, that's the other sort of option. If you're traveling with a family, small family, you might want to be looking at homestay places. They are more expensive, but they're still pretty reasonably priced. Oh, there's the school bell going for the end of classes. So yeah, I hope that's answered any questions. If you have any more, let us know. So if you've enjoyed this video, hit that like button, share with friends, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. If you have any other questions, comments, hit us up down there in the comments section. If there's anything you would like to learn about life here in China, in Guangdong, in Jiaqing, again, hit us up down there in the comments section. If you come up with a good idea, we'll go away, do some research, make a video for you. But for now, thanks for watching everybody, stay safe. We will see you all in the next one. Cheers.